Hey guys, how's it going? So, making this video really on the fly. So I thought the topic for this week's video could just be the local movie theater Cinopolis and the 4 movies I've seen there. So basically what Cinopolis is, it's a smaller theater, it shows smaller film, let me get this shit out of here. Shows smaller films that you wouldn't see in major theaters. They're very proud of the fact that they feel like they've been ahead of the curve on several films that got popular later, like they were showing Pulp Fiction back before it was popular. And I just thought I'd run through some of the movies that I saw there. The first was Cafe Society. And it's a Woody Allen film, and I've seen 3 of Woody Allen's films so far. I've seen the Manhattan, what I've heard is called the unofficial New York trilogy, being Manhattan, Annie Hall, and Hannah and Her Sisters. And I really like Annie Hall, as well as the other 2, Annie Hall being probably my favorite, although I love all 3 of them. And so I've decided I'm a huge Woody Allen fan now. And based off this film, it's interesting because it's a smaller film. It's funded by Amazon, and it's basically about Golden Age Hollywood. It's where what the fuck is his name? Name flashing on screen right now. Who recently played Lex Luthor, and let's just say this movie helped me cleanse my hatred of him at that time, because I knew even then that he was a great actor, but boy, wow, that was awful. So it was good to see a better movie that he was in to sort of cleanse those negative opinions I had of him. And it's funny because Steve Carell is also in this, and it's kind of weird to see at least weird for me just to see Steve Carell in a Woody Allen film, but overall the film was okay. It was an okay film, and I've only seen those 3 greats of Woody Allen, and I hear that he pumps out a lot of movies that after a while kind of feel the same, and I could totally see that being a possibility after seeing this film, because there were bits of like I could swear I was rewatching scenes from Hannah and Her Sisters at certain points, especially when they're, at that moment where the brother who's in the mafia, the brother who's in the mafia turns out to convert to Catholicism right before his death, his execution, because he believes he'll have an afterlife, and in his Jewish tradition they don't have an afterlife. And it's like the exact same moment where the exact same scene almost from Annie Hall, from Hannah and Her Sisters, where the mother's freaking out and, oh, why won't you remain a Jew the way we raised you? Why are you believing in Jesus now? And it was a funny scene then, but it's okay. We've seen this already. Why are we seeing this again? Let's see. Hold on a sec. And I forgot that I had the cast right in front of me. So let me go over the plot. Jesse Eisenberg plays Bobby, and Bobby is basically just a Jewish kid trying to make his way in Hollywood, and his uncle is played by Steve Carell. What's his character's name? Phil. And Phil basically is a high executive at Hollywood, and he's trying to give him just odd jobs, and he meets Kristen Stewart as Veronica, and yes, from Twilight, and she actually has improved so much from then. She does a fine job playing Veronica, and basically Bobby tries to hit on Veronica, but she claims she has a boyfriend that's out of state, and as it turns out, she's secretly seeing his Uncle Phil, but then she starts to fall in love with Bobby, especially after Phil decides that he can't divorce his wife, before then coming back to her and claiming that he's going to marry her regardless. And then ultimately, and actually one of the funnier scenes in the movie, he basically says, look, I just divorced my wife, and I'm going to marry you, and you know what, if you tell me to go to hell, I totally understand, I've done terrible things to you, but if you do, I will kill myself. And then he walks away. And then immediately starts discussing business deals with someone else, like, on the side. And, I mean, I don't know if we're supposed to be angry at Veronica, but poor thing, he literally just told her, "No pressure. I will kill myself if you say no," and then basically she chooses to be with Phil over Bobby. Time passes. Bobby remarries to someone else, and then basically, spoilers. The film sort of just ends with the two of them kind of happy with the partners they've chosen, but both kind of longing for each other. And it did actually end pretty poignantly, where there's just a moment where, they say sometimes there is just that one, and kind of both of them missed out, and both of them still get to see each other. They're still friends. But they sort of realize that they picked the wrong one, and it kind of just ends ambiguously with that. And I've kind of read up on Woody Allen and how each one of his films is supposed to be. All of them are literally about himself. All are allegories to himself. Most of the male characters are all parallels to himself. And he was probably once Bobby, now he's Phil. And I guess it's interesting if you've been a Woody Allen fan and following his career. Sure, it's not as enjoyable now, given recent events, real life events. But yeah, it was a good movie. I'm sort of a little cautious to just watch every single Woody Allen film and not just his outstanding ones, because I could see myself sort of quickly losing interest if they all eventually start borrowing themes. The one thing that's actually legitimately funny about this movie is how his brother is in the mafia, and his Jewish family is either very much in denial or legitimately ignorant of what he's doing. You get the idea that to a certain extent they're ignorant, but they probably suspect what's going on. But every time at the dinner table, it's total, we'll make him an offer he can't refuse. And with, we just need to talk to the club owner and try and convince him, cut to them throwing him in a ditch and pouring cement over it. And it's a legitimately funny juxtaposition. I think that's about it. So, next one. I go from a just average film to, not average, but okay film to Don't Think Twice, which is fucking amazing. Go see, Don't Think Twice. I'm not going to make a stupid pun about that, but this is the movie that will make you laugh and cry. Basically, it's about an improv group in New York City. Their theater is closing down, and they're sort of contemplating where to go next. And one of them, the one who's played by I don't follow Key and Peele, but I know it's one of them. Keegan Michael as Jack, and basically Jack has kind of been looking for his way out. He loves the members of the improv group. They're happy together, but he's sort of been trying to find his way out to Weekend Live, which is their obvious stand-in for SNL. And they kind of take several jabs at SNL that I can totally agree with the limited amount I've seen, where, they're watching the TV and it's like, it sounds like this should be funny. It's not, though. And there's literally a line I've heard in real life from even my parents where it's, did SNL get worse? Or were we just children back then and stupid? And only now we're noticing. And it's so good on so many levels, and I think the main thing is you do sympathize with each member of the improv group. I always forget names, but you have let's see. So Jack, you can sort of see where he's coming from, where you realize that he cares more about the fame and just the rush of adrenaline from being famous to a certain extent in some shape or form. And he almost cares more about that than the actual craft. But he's not made out to be a total... But you can always see where he's coming from. It's not like the total sellout character. And I like what they do with this character at the end, that he doesn't go back to the improv group. He does decide that this is what makes him happy, and he stays with Weekend Live. And you could sort of... And it's not... And it ends very poignantly, where they just sort of, after a lot of fighting and a lot of drama, they just kind of say, okay, props to you, and they kind of just let him go. And that was very... I really liked that. The other characters, Miles... Fuck, I don't actually remember which one's which. Hold on, which one's Miles again? Okay. Miles is sort of 36, if I remember, and he's basically a man approaching his middle ages, not quite there yet, and kind of hitting on younger girls. And there's a very poignant moment in the movie where one of the characters, after getting into a huge fight, just simply says, "You never had it." And he's been trying to claim that he taught all these people who are going on to better things, and she just flat out says, you don't have it, and you never had it. And it's such a gut punch to hear that. I'm gonna try to avoid spoilers, but basically this movie's strength really lies with these really compelling characters that you do come to care for, even the more less perfect, if you will. Let's see, I need to remember which one's Samantha. Hold on. Right, Samantha is sort of the heart of this. She really doesn't want a career necessarily. She really just wants to keep doing this. This what makes her happy. And I like how she's the one who opens up the movie with the narration on how the 3 major rules of improv, which is the first is actually I may have got this out of order, but I think the first is I forgot the order, but one of them is don't think. Another one is say yes. And I remember because we used to do improv in warm-ups, and she got it spot on, is you always say yes, because you have such a loose foundation and you have to just make things up on the spot. So if someone says, look at this room, you have to agree and say, oh yes, it's a nice room, it has nice furniture. Because if you're arguing over, if you start like countering that with a negative and saying, we're not in a room, we're on a boat, it's like, no, then you can't have a foundation to work with. You have to like always accept whatever logic or whatever they're bringing into whatever they're bringing to the stage, because you just can't have a functioning improv if everyone's constantly contradicting what the other is saying. So you just add on, you say yes to everything. Even a character like Allison, who doesn't get much screen time, you just really connect with. There's a brief moment when she's describing the comic book she wants to make, and it's legitimately interesting. You actually want to hear the rest, and you never do. And there was another scene where she's... at one point, they're trying to get their writing into... they're trying to use Jack as an inside man, and they're trying to... use him as an inside man, and they're like, hey, can you drop my writing on what's-his-face's desk and try and make it to his desk? And she's writing her sketch, and it's like one in which it's like some sort of date with Abraham Lincoln that's not working out, and then John Wilkes Booth shows up, and she's like attracted to him. Like, it was so weird and absurd, but it was actually pretty funny. And that's actually something else, is like every time we watch these characters put on an improv show or tell jokes, it is actually funny, and it also feels real. Like, these improvs feel like actual improvs, and they're also funny. And I've heard, the friend I watched it with, I thought said something about like the fact that these were actual improvs they made up on the spot, but I'm not sure about that. But either way, they were both funny and both felt real. And whatever they're I don't know what the backstory is to that, but whatever it is conveyed genuinely. And the other, who else did I forget? So Lindsay, I always find it's funny because Lindsay is the rich girl, and she's the kind of person who she's the only one who's living off of welfare in the movie. And they're like, but your parents, and she's like, I'm separate from my parents. I mean, they just feed, clothe, and give me a roof to live under. But I'm separate from them. And then she's filing for unemployment, and let's see, and then let's see, hold on, who else? And then Bill is just sort of he has tragedy befall him in the beginning with his father, and I think there's one line that like anyone in the entertainment industry or anyone who's ever done something in the creative arts can relate to. Or, it doesn't even need to be creative arts. Someone who just has a ulterior passion in their life or an other passion. It's that moment when he says, "Look, I am the free samples guy at the grocery store," and he like points to the Improv Theater. It's like, this is all I have. I'm like, because while I'm there, no one acknowledges I exist. Everyone looks down on me. But when I'm here, it's like I'm a superhero. It's like I have an other identity. Yeah, I may be that guy at the grocery store, but what you don't know is that I'm part of the Commune, which is the name of their improv group. I think it is. I mean, I've got that wrong. And I think anyone can relate to that line, and there's just a lot of moments in this movie. There's too many to go over. Go see Don't Think Twice. It's probably one of the best. It's definitely the best of the four I've seen. Is there anything else? And so I'm going to edit this part. There's a scene where they're all so Jack has left the improv group, and now Jack was somewhat of a celebrity presence there because he was a character on Weekend Live. He was doing his thing on Weekend Live, so now they had celebrity credibility. But now that he's gone, the people there, one of the obnoxious guys, when asked, "Is anyone having a bad day?" They're like, he says something like, "Yeah, because Jack's not here." And that's how they always started off with it. They take someone's bad day and then they like use it as the seed to like build whatever their sketch is. And they're like, "Jack's not here." "Yeah, Jack's not here." And you kind of wait. You're trying to figure out where they're going with this. And then they're all praying because Jack is dead. And they come up with an improv that's legitimately funny, and is not at all subtle about how they feel about Jack at the moment. They're like, "Jack's in heaven, where you're richer in heaven, unlike us down here," and just so really great movie. Alright, so next one is Equity. And Equity is a film I think I have enjoyed really running it through my head and just thinking about it for a while and kind of coming to an understanding of it, because watching it wasn't exactly... It was a fine, entertaining movie. It wasn't very enjoyable merely because I just am completely illiterate in economics, and that was a bit frustrating to just have no idea what people were saying and completely illiterate to Wall Street's rules and systems. And when so you kind of just have to watch people's facial expressions, like, "Oh, happy, we're going good. Oh, sad, we're sad face. We're not. They're not doing good." Like, because I couldn't at least follow the jargon that they were talking about. But it's a very interesting movie because the first noticeable thing is that it's a female-centric movie about people in Wall Street, and the first assumption is that it's about sexism in the workplace and in Wall Street. And that's not really the focus of the movie. And that's where it actually becomes interesting, because where the movie opens, it opens with, shit, let me bring up the names. Naomi, who is working for a company, again, not at all literate about the business jargon, but she's a very successful businesswoman, and at one point she's giving a talk to a party that's a sort of a female talk. Sorry, she becomes like a platform speaker at like a some sort of, I think it was like a college, like women in business sort of organization, and she's speaking on behalf of them. They asked her to speak, and she basically lays out sort of the thesis in the movie where it actually says, "I'm so happy women are at a place where they can talk about money." So it's not saying necessarily that there's a large plight against women in the business world, that whether there is or isn't, that's just not what she's saying. It's that we're now at a point where women can work in the business world, can become very successful without facing as many obstacles. And she says, "Don't let money be a dirty word." And that plays into the rest of the movie, because what ends up happening is Naomi